In this video, I'm going to demonstrate what it may have been like listening to the radio in Daventry in the early 1920s. Today I'm going to talk about crystal radio sets, early radios that were used right from the beginning of the BBC. BBC started broadcasting in November 1922, and by 1923 there was a big interest in radio and everybody wanted to experience the new medium. There would have only been one broadcast at the time from the BBC. The programme would have been only in the afternoon and evening, and there would be only one from the BBC. There were various sets you could buy at the time. You could buy a valve receiver, which would have cost you £20–30, and as the average wage then was between £1 and £3, it was out of reach of most people. But a crystal set was a cheap budget alternative that a lot more people could afford. You could go out and buy this little gem for 5 and 6, which is 27p in today's money, and you get this little crystal set, a lovely little thing, and a turned pear wood bobbin with a coil wound round it. Basically, a crystal set was just a coil and the actual crystal itself. You could adjust the coil to tune into the station. So you bought your crystal set, then you've got to have headphones so you can listen to your crystal set, so that's another 3 and 6. You've got to have buy some wire and make an aerial which runs from the roof of the house down the back garden to a pole or a tree in order to receive the signals. And on top of it all, you had to have a licence which cost 10 shillings a year, which was 50p. So all in all, you would have spent about £1. So half a week's wages probably. I will now go on to talk about this radio crystal set, which was made locally in the Daventry area, probably in about 1923. You could save a bit of money by making your own set, and also you had the satisfaction of making a nice thing you could use, a working thing that you could use. Either working in the shed or on the kitchen table. You make your wooden base, whoever did this. He got corks from the wine bottle and a bit of dowel to mount these coils. He would have wound these coils on a kitchen utensil or perhaps a vase, a cylindrical object, 2 cylindrical objects, one smaller than the other. So you ended up with 2 coils, so you can get some adjustment here to tune the radio in. It was much easier in those days because nowadays we've got hundreds of TV channels, we've got a dozen or more radio channels. Then there was just one, BBC. So you just adjusted this for the maximum volume. Right, now I will give a demonstration just to show what it was like back in the day. Here we have the crystal, which is that shiny crystallised galena crystal, which is lead sulphide, which can either be found naturally or manufactured. And then what's called a cat's whisker is a little coil of wire on this handle which you can lower into the crystal. The person who made this would have bought this from the radio shops that were springing up everywhere at the time. Who had bought this in but made the rest of it himself. And then the idea is that you've got to tickle the crystal It's called With This Little Cat's Whisker of Wire to Find a Sensitive Spot to Make It Work. I'm using a 1940s radio as a speaker, so you can hear what's happening. The chap at the top would have used the headphones, but of course, to make the demonstration easier, I will use the speaker. So I will tickle the crystal and see if we can get something. So we've got Radio 5 live at low volume. See if I can get a bit more. Depending on where you point that you make it touch the crystal, you can get some areas are more sensitive than others. So it's quite difficult to get it right, and you've got to make sure you don't jar the table. And also, using the headphones, the signal is very quiet, so that you have to have a silence in the room while you're listening. You can't hear while anybody else is talking. So what with that and this fiddling, you might have think that your half a week's wages not very well spent, but at the time, I mean, it was a marvel, it was a miracle. Now we take everything, radio, Wi-Fi, for granted, but then it was a new thing, a miracle, miraculous invention.
It's not a bad thing.
That's the crux of it. That's the message today.